right now with Conor McShane.
And time, Tracy, to welcome in the political consultant and pollster Frank Luntz to the program here on Imus in the Morning. Of course, we're going to talk about politics with Frank, but he comes in here screaming at the two of us for not owning American cars, so we could start with that. I have a Toyota, and what do you have, an Acura?
I have an Acura.
Tracy has an Acura.
I've got a Chevy Corvette, so at least
but that's different.
I'm buying an American. No!
Is it an old Corvette, first of all? What year?
It's a couple of years old.
What's a couple?
2008. And I believe in buying an American. By the way, your voice changes when you go on the air. I wonder if people realize that.
It's deeper.
You get your radio voice when you go on.
It's deeper.
I wonder if audiences realize that.
Sometimes
it changes.
That he squeaks
it's
when he's off
projecting.
there?
But in this time, don't you want to be doing something good for America first? Second is that GM is producing great automobiles. GM and Ford. It's one of the reasons why they're having great quarters. Because people are starting to take a look. They're coming into the showrooms again and saying that these cars aren't like they were 5 or 10 years ago.
Are they paying you to say this?
Why are you so anti-patriotic?
It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with price, fuel efficiency, and safety for my kids.
And you're telling me that a GM car today...
Fuel efficiency, even though my car got a C.
Bashed the Prius before.
Yeah, and can you spell the word efficiency?
No, not right now.
In 2010, you're telling me that the American cars aren't as good. Toyota, you touch it and it crashes. And I live in L.A. I just bought a home in L.A. and it's right across from Lux Hotel. And I always said that if the people don't like me, I'll know that I'm in trouble when they buy me a Toyota, because you put your foot on the gas, you'll go right out of the hotel gate and into my swimming pool.
But all these cars are made in the United States anyway. I inevitably bought an American car because it was built here, so I'm doing just fine.
Tracy, good point. Good point. Built by American workers. Most of them in Lexington, Kentucky, right?
That's easy for you to say.
Lexington, Kentucky.
That and efficiency.
Well, I just think with the economy where it is, and now we'll do the nice segue. With the economy where it is, and Barack Obama talking about Iraq rather than jobs, Iraq rather than economic growth and prosperity, Iraq rather than what the American people want to talk about, that we really do need to be focused on what does well here in this country. You can't keep having 9.5% unemployment and say that the recession is over, that the economy is back on track. And that's what Larry Lindsay said back in October. I quote, "The recession is over. The only question is how big will our recovery be?" Well, to families that are still stuck in the recession, there is no recovery. And that's one of the reasons why the Americans are so angry, so anxious, and really so annoyed with Washington.
You know, it's an interesting poll headline this morning. It's this generic Gallup poll. Maybe it's not interesting. Let's see what you think of it. 10-point generic lead for the GOP over the Democrats in the midterms. What does that tell us?
It tells us that the Republicans are about to kick butt.
I mean, I'm just asking whether that translates, the generic polls, to the actual races.
I'll give you two statistics. In 1994, the Republicans had a 6-point advantage on Election Day, and they won 51, 52 seats. In 2006, the Democrats had a 5-point advantage, and they took control. When you have a 10-point advantage, it means people that you never expected to win are going to get elected, because even though they may not know the name of the congressman they're voting for, they're still voting for party.
Okay, so we're seeing more business-type people take the lead. Meg Whitman as an example. We need smart people in office to make smart decisions, right? So how does this play out? Does President Obama then start to govern from the center like everyone's hoping he does and pull a Bill Clinton if the Republicans take over in November?
I always thought that Republicans would do okay in the off-year election and Barack Obama would get reelected because he's a good communicator. What he's proving is he's great from a teleprompter, but he's not in real life. And that the way that he's governing and what he's saying, why would you talk about a mosque in the middle of this high unemployment? Why would you do this national press conference from the White House on an issue that nobody cares about? I don't know how he's going to govern, but I do know this. First, the American people want accountability and personal responsibility from their elected leaders. Second, they want respect from their business leaders. They want to be appreciated as employees. And third, they want measurable results from the institutions that are in charge of this country. And they feel like they're getting none of those three, which is why trust and confidence in all these things that govern us is down now, lower than at any time in modern times. We had greater faith in government, greater faith in the economy, even in 1974 with Watergate and the Arab oil embargo and all of that. We don't believe that people tell us the truth anymore. And by the way, we don't trust this institution. I don't mean Fox, the media overall. You know, Fox was the #1 most trusted news source in polling that they did earlier this year. And it's not that it's so trusted, it's that everybody else is so mistrusted.
Trust anybody else. Yeah,
Right.
Jean Leboutillier was in our friend yesterday. He's a Republican, a former congressman. And
I haven't
he
heard
said-
that name in 20 years.
He's on Imus all the time. But yeah, he was. You're right. He hasn't been in Congress, I don't think, since the early 80s.
Yeah, he was elected in 80, I believe, and lost in 82.
So anyway, he was in here yesterday, and his theory about the midterms from his perspective, obviously, as a Republican, is that he wishes that they would miss out by a seat, didn't he say, of winning, because he thinks that a Republican win is going to help or very easily could help the president, that we could have a repeat of 94.
Because Obama could then govern against Congress and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, but the Republicans control it. I would argue that you vote for the people that you want in office, regardless of what it means 2 years or 4 years down the road. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if there'll be some sort of economic calamity, but we do know this. We cannot have a debt that is growing at the level that it's growing right now. We cannot have deficits that are $1.4 trillion. We cannot have all this spending and the stimulus and the bailouts and everything.
But how do you change the mentality? You said yourself confidence is the lowest it's been pretty much since I've been around. What happens? What has to happen to get me to change the way I think? Because I've changed my ways now because of it, right? I shop differently. I save differently. I do everything differently. In order to get me out there again and go out and spend $1,000 on a pair of shoes, you have to really instill confidence back in my paycheck.
We need that to happen.
And we need her
need shoes.
she needs confidence back, so she'll shop.
Yeah, that's what we need.
The answer is that
And then you need to cut my head off because that's dumb.
people have to get involved. And I say to now when people complain that they don't trust anyone, I say, well, you're going to vote in November. And I have a lot of people telling me no. I said, well, then shut up. Here's the deal. You get a chance to have your voice heard. If you won't go to a town hall meeting, if you won't vote, if you won't email and call your member of Congress, then shut up and stop complaining because it's your fault and people like you that don't participate. This is the ultimate. This is why so many people came to Glenn Beck to watch him in Washington.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that they agree with him, but they want to be heard. They want someone to listen. And the people who are most afraid and frustrated are moms. Moms with a couple of kids. Because as important as their career is, and I shouldn't look at you because you're not a mom.
But Tracy is.
The most important thing for you is the future of your children. And here's the statistic that just so upsets me. Almost a majority of moms believe that their kids, very close to a majority, will have a worse quality of life than them.
Yeah, that's not good.
And that is what is driving moms crazy right now. Yeah. They want to pass along something better. And I know we're supposed to be optimistic in the morning.
Yeah, you killed it.
But this is the way it is.
This is why I have to constantly get my grades touched up because this is very stressful.
It's not about your grades.
It is.
It's about their grades.
Thank you. Thanks.
It's not about your Acura. It's about GM.
Buy American. Frank Luntz joining us sometimes in the morning program. Thank you, Frank.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, top stories coming up. Tracy will have them at the top of the hour. Much more still to come on Imus.